Many people who know deaf history know that Ipe established the Paris School for the Deaf, and later Laurent Clerc established the American School for the Deaf. But many are not aware of Dr. Andrew Foster, who established over 30 schools for the deaf. Dr. Andrew Foster, his name sign is A on the neck. He was an educator, pastor, and African American deaf man. Beginning in 1957, he established over 30 schools for the deaf in 13 different African countries. In Africa, Dr. Foster was an advocate for deaf rights and the education of deaf children. He was a teacher, a spiritual leader, and a mentor of a new generation of deaf teachers and leaders. Dr. Foster was a deaf person who believed in the power of education, the preciousness of sign language, and the importance of spiritual education. Once a deaf person had these three things, they could become contributing citizens in their countries and influence future generations of deaf people. How did Andrew Foster accomplish so much? How did his story begin? I'll explain. Dr. Andrew Foster was born June 27, 1925. If he were alive today in 2015, he would be 90 years old. He was from a small mining town in Alabama where his father worked as a miner. Andrew Foster was a miner of sorts too, who found the richness in Africa in the education of deaf children. Marius Titus of Benin was one of Dr. Foster's first students in Africa. If I am able to communicate with my hands today, I owe that to Dr. Foster. It was of his opinion that a deaf person living in Africa who cannot read or write was like a piece of gold, lost in a far remote mine down in rural Africa. That piece of gold had to be taken out and polished. Ensley was close to Birmingham. And was known for its mines. Dr. Foster's parents married and had 4 children, of which Andrew was the oldest. Andrew was born hearing, and during his boyhood, he expressed a desire to go to Africa. In 1936, when Andrew was about 11 years old, he and his younger brother, Edward, became deaf from spinal meningitis. Later, Andrew and Edward attended the Alabama School for Negro Deaf and Blind in Talladega, which was about 60 miles from their home. At that time, there were about 95 to 100 deaf students at the Alabama School for the Negro Deaf and Blind. Education was limited to 6th grade for African American students. In 1942, at the age of 17, Andrew decided to move north to live with an aunt in Flint, Michigan, to continue his education. Instead, Andrew worked in restaurants and car factories and other jobs. Yet, his greatest desire was to find other educational opportunities. He took a correspondence course to get his high school diploma. While working, he attended the Detroit Institute of Commerce, getting a diploma in accounting and business administration. Later, Andrew met Eric Mileskun, who was a deaf vocational rehabilitation counselor who encouraged Andrew to attend Gallaudet College. He received a federal scholarship for his education, entering Gallaudet in 1951. During his summers at Gallaudet College, Andrew didn't take time off to go to the beach and relax. He persisted in his education by taking summer courses at Hampton Institute in Virginia. This meant that Andrew graduated early, in just 3 years, from Gallaudet with a Bachelor of Arts in Education in 1954. His major was education. Additionally, he was the first African American to graduate from Gallaudet College. In 1954, he attended a missionary conference which sparked his desire to go to Africa as a missionary. At this point, he decided he needed more education. Andrew returned to Michigan to get his master's degree in education from Michigan State College. Andrew Foster earned his second master's from Seattle Pacific Christian College in missionary education. Armed with 2 master's degrees, Andrew Foster felt ready to take on his goal as a missionary. Despite his wealth of education, missionary groups where he applied would not support him due to racism and/or autism. Andrew Foster did not give up or lose faith in response to this discrimination. Thus, he went ahead and founded Christian missions for the deaf Africans. And raised money for his first 1957 trip abroad to Africa. In 1957, he went to 2 countries, Liberia and Ghana. While in Ghana, he established 2 deaf schools. In 1959, Andrew Foster flew to Europe to attend the World Federation of the Deaf Conference in Germany. There, he met a deaf German woman. They courted, fell in love, and 2 years later, they married in Nigeria. During the early 1960s, he established schools for the deaf in several cities in Nigeria. These are rare home movies from the early 1960s that show Dr. Foster and his wife, Bertha, at several of the schools he founded in Ghana and Nigeria. In addition, Andrew and his wife started their family. For much of his life, he spent 6 months of the year in Africa establishing schools and the other 6 months in the United States, raising money for his educational and missionary efforts in Africa. While in the U.S., he also continued to take graduate courses at Wayne State University and Detroit Bible College. It wasn't always easy to face the challenges of working in Africa. He experienced many barriers because men of the African countries were newly independent and had newly formed governments. African countries often had a variety of tribal languages, sign languages, and sometimes their national language wasn't English. Some countries were dangerous in terms of disease, and travel wasn't easy. Most important, many of these governments did not feel that deaf people could be educated, and Andrew Foster needed to convince them that deaf people could. In 1970, Gallaudet College decided to honor Andrew Foster with an honorary doctorate degree. Andrew Foster was invited as keynote speaker at the World Federation of the Deaf Conference in Washington, D.C. Dr. Andrew Foster received many alumni awards, not only from Gallaudet, but also from other colleges he graduated from, recognized and honored his work and success in Africa. Andrew began to recognize several students from the schools he established in Africa, encouraging them to go to Gallaudet and also pursue graduate degrees. Some of his most promising students were sent to America to continue their education. In 1987, Andrew Foster grabbed the last seat on a plane, heading to Kenya. The plane crashed in Rwanda. Unfortunately, there were no survivors. Gallaudet College decided to host a memorial service honoring Dr. Foster in 1988. Gallaudet University's Chapel Hall was the setting of a memorial service dedicated to the memory of Dr. Andrew Foster. Gabriel Adepoju from Nigeria says, "I remember very well now, as if it were yesterday. It was a very warm day in Nigeria in 1960. He wrote a letter asking me to come and see him. I went, and after 3 days of travel, I met him. I said, 'This is me, Gabriel Adepoju.' He pantomimed that he was deaf and that I was deaf. And I talked with other people who were standing with him, and I said, 'Tell him my name is.' They stopped me and gestured, 'He is deaf. We are deaf.' And I said, 'What? You? All of you are deaf?' I thought I was the only person in the world who was deaf. Now I meet a person like you, who is big and tall, and who has a Master of Arts, and who is deaf. You did a good job, Andrew. Not only did you make me proud of you, you made the whole world proud of you. Thank you. Later, in 2004, Gallaudet University honored his work with the name Dr. Andrew J. Foster on their auditorium. When Andrew Foster arrived in Africa, he saw a dry ground with no foundation. He dug in the dry soil, planted seeds, and watered. From there, the roots were able to grow, and what he had cultivated thrived and spread across the continent.